They froze for a moment before bursting out into laughter to the point of doubling over. Hospital visits were like this every time, with incredible highs, sorrowful lows, and incredibly offensive jokes that left them in stitches. These visits, these emotional roller coaster rides, were painfully exhausting and simultaneously euphoric. For Nikki, it almost felt like they were crossing off items from a bucket list before Armageddon or some cataclysmic event ended the world. When the laughter and the tears subsided, Lucas cracked his window open. "Guys, look, it's a 5-line skink. I don't see anything." Nikki and Savannah leaned out the window and shrugged as he pointed to a blotchy spot on the brick tiling. "How could you not? There's so many of them." "We don't see anything," Savannah said, attempting to pull him away. Lucas tried to force himself free but didn't have the strength, so instead, he leaned even further and pointed joyfully. "They're crawling up the wall and they're so big. Oh my God, they're coming closer." Savannah stepped aside and whispered to Nikki that she was going to find a nurse. "This is crazy. They're talking. The skinks are talking. How can that be? How can that be?" "Lucas," Nikki said hoarsely, trying to pull his body away. She was almost as frail as him and only a fraction of his size. "You're not feeling well. How can you not hear them? They're saying, 'We're just a memory like you. We're just a memory like you.' What do they mean, Nikki? What do they mean? Tell me you can hear this. Tell me. I'm not a memory. I'm not a fucking memory." As Lucas screamed, Nikki began to whimper, her arms still tight around him. Savannah rushed into the room with a towering muscular nurse with a buzz cut who lifted Lucas away from her, like a gardener pulling the last weed from his garden. He motioned for Nikki and Savannah to step outside, and Lucas continued to scream. A few more nurses entered the room, along with a doctor. "He's not well. You must go," the muscular nurse shouted. "Go!" Before Savannah and Nikki could move, he put his 2 meaty hands on their shoulders and steered them out the door as the team rushed into action. They could only look helplessly at the shadows from the tinted window as the shouting continued. Through the walls, they could hear him scream, "A memory just like me! A memory just like me!" The girls huddled together, moving as far down the hallway as they could. Their bodies were shaking. Their vision was locked on the distant elevator. They almost didn't see their little brothers, Darius and Colt, coming up beside them, carrying yellow bags with the words "Blockbuster Night" on them. "Mom's been waiting in the car for you forever," Colt nagged, nudging Darius, who was a half-foot taller than him. Darius chuckled and nudged him back. "Savvy, your mom is working late, so you're coming home with us for pizza and movies." "Okay," Savannah said faintly, scratching the back of her arm. "Sure thing," Nikki followed, her eyes darting back to Lucas's door, which was eerily silent. "You guys okay?" Darius said with a fat Tootsie Pop in his fingers. She nudged Colt between licks, who nudged him back even harder and slapped him on the back. "What? You're just letting him call you Savvy. You hate that." "I think we better go home," Savannah said. "I have a severe headache." "You can lay down in my bed." As they headed to the elevator, Nikki glanced back at Lucas's room, which for some reason appeared blurry and hazy. She blinked twice, and the room came into focus. She sighed with relief until she noticed the number beside the room had disappeared along with the patient card in the slot next to the door. All of a sudden, she couldn't remember the words Lucas shouted or why he was shouting to begin with. For years, this memory would burn into a hazy oblivion. The day she saw Lucas in the cemetery, however, it burned quite clearly. She convinced herself the figure wasn't him. The Lucas she had known since childhood was always a light in her otherwise dreary life. With Savannah gone for a semester abroad in Scotland, her annoying little brother Colt was the only one left who treated her as a person. At least when she came home from the cemetery, he was at the door to greet her, while her parents stewed quietly in the kitchen. Even though she wasn't dead yet, she was always a ghost to them. Sure, they brought her to the hospital for treatments, but it felt more out of obligation than anything else. "Hey, Sticky Nicky," Colt, plump as ever, said as she entered the front door to the living room. He was holding a can of cherry Coke and started skipping and singing as she stepped inside. Sticky Nicky, she's so sticky, she's so icky." "What? You're not gonna smack me?" "Not today, pig boy. I hate it when you call me that," the pesky 8-year-old said, slapping her waist. "Hey, wait, your face is red. Are you sad or something?" I am, she said, plopping down on the gray sectional. She could smell something meaty cooking in the kitchen where her parents spoke of whispers. Colt plopped down next to her. Nikki groaned and slid over to the other pillow. Is this 'cause you're sick? No, pig boy. I feel okay today. Is this about your dead friend? She raised a hand to slap him, stopping at his forehead as he formed an arm barrier. His name is Lucas. And how did you know? I hear you talking about him in your sleep sometimes. Did you go to that spooky cemetery and visit him again? Yes. How did you know? Mom and Dad say you do that sometimes. They could drop me off once in a while, she said loud enough for them to hear in the kitchen. And why did you say it's spooky? Well, someone at school says the Green Lady lives in that cemetery. The what? Nikki felt her fingers grow numb and her body shiver. She's creepy, he shouted, spritzing his soda into the air. Nikki winced and squirmed as droplets trickled onto her. I heard about it from this older kid at school. He said she's like a ghost named Elizabeth or something, and she's like hundreds of years old. They said she drowned in this swamp in this really big snowstorm looking for a man. Like her husband. Colt paused to think and remember the rest of the story. He looked surprised to have captured his sister's attention. He said she was already really sick and had tuberculosis or something? Tuberculosis? Yeah, that's it. Anyways, he said she haunts the cemetery you go to and this other cemetery on Covey Road. He said she forgot her name, or maybe it was her husband's name. Husband, Colt, he shrugged. Whatever, Sticky Nicky, that's the story. Be careful when you go there. Colt kissed her on the cheek, and he skipped off, singing, Sticky Nicky, she's so sticky, she's so icky. As Colt skipped out of sight, she heard a cold voice from the kitchen calling her name. Nikki, can you come into the kitchen for a moment? Nikki sighed and traipsed into the kitchen, where her mom leaned over the faucet, tending to her plant on the windowsill. Her father had already left for his overnight shift at the power plant. Even though her mother stood feet away from her, she felt miles away, the distance growing further with each passing day. Nikki could barely stand to look at her without becoming sad. She looked like an older version of Nikki, with gray streaks in her strawberry blonde hair. She vowed never to become as cold as her mother if she lived long enough to have a child. Mom, what is it? Nikki took a seat at the rustic table, exhaling deeply. Mom, your doctor called. He said there are protease inhibitors available for you to take. What are those? Her mother tightened her fists and groaned. Must you ask so many questions? Apparently, people with your condition live longer. Oh, she felt her heart rise rapidly in her chest as the words live longer were spoken. She didn't think living longer was a possibility and even planned out her funeral, even knowing her parents wouldn't have one the way she wanted. That's great. When can I go? God damn it, I'm not sure. Maybe next week if I have time. Nikki's chest tightened as her mother groaned once more, pretending to fix the roots of her daisies. Why do you hate me? This stopped her mother in her tracks. She slowly turned around, wiping gray strands from her eyes. Sweetheart, I don't hate you. I hate your actions. So you think I deserve this? Don't you dare turn back around? Silence was all her mom had to give as Nikki rose from her seat and stood face to face with her. They shared the same shamrock green eyes, but her mom's were an icier shade. Her mother began to shake as Nikki stepped closer. I'm sick of the way you and Dad have treated me for the past year. You assume I got it on my own, and honestly, if I did, who cares? You should still love your daughter no matter what. If you bothered to ask, you would have known it wasn't my choice. I had no say. Did you know that, Mother? Or did you just